America's 2025 food crisis is tearing families apart. Food prices have surged 27% while wages rose only 4%, leaving the middle class crushed by living costs. The average family now spends over $1,200 a month on food, yet many still go hungry. Credit cards are maxed, savings are gone, and grocery receipts reflect a collapsing system. Parents skip meals so children can eat. Workers hide hunger behind forced smiles. This isn't just inflation, it's an economic breakdown disguised as normal life. The Great Depression isn't history, it's repeating quietly across America. Behind closed doors, millions struggle to survive as the illusion of stability fades. The collapse has arrived, not with headlines, but with empty plates and silent kitchens. Number 5. Mississippi, starving in silence. Mississippi has long carried the label of America's poorest state. But in 2025, that title hides a harsher truth. The middle class is starving. Not with breadlines or protests, but through quiet, relentless struggle. Teachers, factory workers, and nurses now count every penny at the checkout aisle, watching groceries cost more than they can earn in days. These aren't people living off assistance. They're full-time workers who rise before sunrise, labor through 10-hour shifts, and still can't afford to fill their fridges. The average household income hovers around $54,000 a year, but the cost of living has exploded. Groceries that once cost $600 a month now exceed $1,000, swallowing nearly a quarter of take-home pay. Eggs that sold for $1.29 now cost $4.80. Milk tops $6 a gallon. Ground beef, once a cheap staple, reaches $6.50 per pound. For families with children, the math doesn't work. A Jackson mother earning $22 an hour spends nearly $250 a week on basic food: bread, rice, vegetables, milk, with nothing left for extras. Mississippi's middle class is being erased by stagnant wages and runaway inflation. The old myth of Southern affordability has collapsed. Rents in cities like Gulfport and Hattiesburg are up 38% since 2020. Utility bills have doubled. After rent, gas, and childcare, most families have only a few $100s left, quickly devoured by the grocery bill. Many now rely on credit cards to buy food, creating what economists call hunger debt, borrowing to survive. Local food banks are overwhelmed. In 2019, they mostly served low-income or unemployed residents. Now, 1 in 4 visitors has a full-time job. Teachers arrive after school, warehouse workers line up before dawn, and nurses stop by after late shifts. Pride has given way to survival. Even cheap staples are luxuries. Families trade chicken for beans, milk for powdered substitutes, and fresh produce for canned goods. Healthy eating has become a privilege for the wealthy, and the irony cuts deep. Mississippi produces food for the entire nation: corn, soybeans, poultry. Yet those who grow and process it can't afford what they help make. Corporate consolidation has wiped out small markets and funneled profits out of state, forcing locals to pay national chain prices for local goods. It's like growing your own dinner and buying it back at double the cost. What's unfolding isn't just economic pain, it's moral decay. People who played by the rules and worked hard are forced to choose between gas and groceries, bills and breakfast. In a state where 60% identify as middle or working class, hunger has become universal, a shared, unspoken burden. There are no riots, no headlines, just quiet sacrifice, parents skipping meals so kids can eat, elderly couples cutting portions to stretch another week, workers pretending they aren't hungry during lunch breaks. Mississippi isn't just struggling, it's starving in slow motion. And as food prices climb another 10% this year, the truth becomes undeniable. This isn't a passing hardship. It's a modern echo of the Great Depression, unfolding one empty plate at a time. Number 4. Nevada, the hidden hunger behind the neon lights. Nevada is a land of illusions. Glittering casinos, neon skylines, and billion-dollar resorts stretch across the desert. But behind the spectacle lies a harsh reality. The middle class can no longer afford to eat. For decades, Las Vegas symbolized opportunity, steady service jobs, affordable living, and tips that once paid the bills. Today, those lights hide a silent hunger. Waiters carrying $200 steaks for tourists, hotel cleaners scrubbing luxury suites, and cashiers ringing groceries. They are the ones skipping meals, rationing food, and living paycheck to paycheck. In 2025, Nevada's middle class is quietly collapsing. The median household income hovers around $67,000, but inflation has outpaced wages by more than 30%. Federal data shows the average grocery bill in Las Vegas jumped from $700 in 2020 to nearly $1,150 in 2025. A dozen eggs cost $5.50, milk averages $6.30, and even rice and beans, the cheapest staples, have doubled in price. One Henderson mother put it simply, "I used to feed my family for $150 a week. Now it's over $300, and we eat less." The casino economy, once Nevada's golden ticket, has become a trap. Workers who rely on tips have seen real income shrink as visitors cut back, and inflation devours every dollar. Union contracts haven't caught up, and pandemic aftershocks linger. Meanwhile, rent in Las Vegas has surged over 45% since 2019. Gas prices remain high, and healthcare premiums are crushing. A two-income family earning $80,000 might appear comfortable on paper, but after taxes, rent, car payments, and insurance, only about $400 remains for food. Barely enough when ground beef costs $7 per pound. Even the state's tech hubs are feeling the pressure. In Redmond and Bellevue, six-figure engineers are splitting meals and skipping dining out. A modest family dinner can cost $100, more than some spend on a week's groceries. Property taxes, health care, and daycare have erased every ounce of disposable income. When wages rise 4% while food costs climb 20%, people don't move forward. They just starve slower. Washington's middle class doesn't starve on the streets. They starve in silence. They buy less meat, water down milk, and trade fresh produce for processed food. Parents quietly eat smaller portions so their kids can have enough. In the shadow of billion-dollar skyscrapers and fleets of delivery trucks filled with food, Washington's workers, the ones who build, teach, and heal, are fighting to keep their dignity. This isn't inflation, it's collapse disguised as modern life, the quiet return of the Great Depression, wrapped in digital convenience and paid for, one painful grocery receipt at a time. Number 3. Texas, feeding a crisis. Texas once promised prosperity, affordable homes, booming jobs, and weekends filled with family barbecues. But in 2025, that dream has turned bitter. The middle class, the very families who built Texas from oil rigs to tech hubs, can no longer afford the most basic necessity: food. Pride is giving way to quiet desperation. Grocery bills have skyrocketed while wages lag. In 2019, the average Texan household spent about $680 per month on food. Today, that number exceeds $1,150. A dozen eggs cost $4.90, a gallon of milk near $6, and a pound of chicken that once sold for $2.20 now averages $5.50. Even rice and bread, once staples of survival, have climbed in price. Families who once filled their carts without thought now count every dollar, cutting meat, skipping snacks, and substituting fresh produce with canned goods. Texas feeds the nation with cattle, crops, and energy. Yet its middle class is starving under the weight of corporate profits and unchecked inflation. The median household income of $73,000 might sound solid, but after taxes, $2,000 rent, $500 utilities, car insurance, health coverage, and gas, little remains. A family of 4 in Houston or Dallas spends nearly a third of their income just to stay fed. One San Antonio father told reporters, "We don't buy extras anymore. No snacks, no takeout, just essentials. And even that's not enough." Food banks across Texas are overwhelmed. The Houston Food Bank, one of the largest in the nation, reports a 45% surge in working family demand since 2022. These aren't unemployed people. They're nurses, teachers, factory workers, and delivery drivers, showing up in uniform, ashamed but desperate. Grocery chains report lower sales volume but higher spending per customer. meaning families buy less but pay more. Children are feeling the hunger, too. School lunch debt across Texas districts has surpassed $100 million, with teachers quietly covering meals for students who cannot afford them. This is more than an economic failure. It's a moral one. Texas prides itself on self-reliance, but what freedom exists when a paycheck cannot feed your family? When a gallon of milk competes with a gallon of gas and both are out of reach? The new Texas middle class is not thriving. They are surviving one receipt at a time. Credit card debt for groceries is rising, and household debt has reached record highs. Behind every God Bless Texas bumper sticker is a family cutting dinner portions, hoping next week's prices don't rise again. The tragedy is quiet but visible everywhere. Half-empty shopping carts, thinner grocery bags, and parents pretending they are full so their children can eat a little more. The Great Depression once showed bread lines in black and white. Today, it comes with digital payments, overdraft fees, and shrinking pantries. Texas, once a symbol of the American dream, is now on the front line of its collapse. Grills are cold, fridges are empty, and the middle class is learning what their grandparents already knew. Hunger doesn't care how big your house is when the pantry is bare. Number 2. Washington, the silent hunger of the middle class. In Washington, the grocery aisle has become the new front line of economic despair. The same state that gave the world Amazon's trillion-dollar empire and Starbucks $6 lattes now hides a darker truth. Its middle class can no longer afford to eat properly. Once a symbol of innovation and prosperity, Washington is quietly living through an invisible Great Depression, one masked by credit cards and self-checkout beeps. Families who once filled their carts freely now stand in aisles doing math in their heads, wondering whether a gallon of milk is worth skipping breakfast tomorrow. In 2019, the average Washington household spent about $700 a month on groceries. By 2025, that number has surged past $1,200 for a family of 4, a 70% jump in 6 years. A carton of eggs now costs $5, a loaf of bread $4.29, and chicken once $1.99 a pound now sits above $4.50. Even getting to the store is costly, with gas prices hovering near $5 a gallon in parts of Seattle. The median household income of $94,000 sounds comfortable until you subtract $2,500 for rent, $400 for utilities, car payments, and childcare. What's left is barely $100 for a week's worth of food. Parents who once packed lunches with fruit now rely on bulk noodles and discount snacks. In eastern Washington, food banks report 40% more visitors than before the pandemic, many of them full-time workers. A Boeing technician earning $35 an hour now stands in line beside a teacher and a nurse, all struggling to feed their families. The cruel irony is abundance. Grocery shelves overflow with organic produce and gourmet goods while cashiers skip lunch in the break room. The food is there, it's just out of reach. Inflation has turned the middle class into invisible beggars, people in clean clothes swiping credit cards for ground beef. 1 in 3 households in Washington now carries credit card debt for groceries, adding an average of $90 in monthly interest. The result is a hidden hunger crisis in a state built on luxury. Food banks report a 50% surge in working-class families seeking help since 2022. These aren't the homeless or unemployed. They're retail workers, casino employees, and small business owners. 1 in 3 middle-class Nevadans now skips meals regularly to save money. Many rely on high-interest credit cards just to keep groceries in the house. It's not uncommon to see luxury cars in grocery parking lots owned by people drowning in debt. The pain isn't only financial, it's psychological. Struggling to afford food while living in a land of excess erodes dignity. Families hide their hardship, stretching leftovers, parents taking smaller portions so children can eat, seniors skipping fresh produce because $2 for an apple feels like a luxury. It's the same quiet despair that haunted America nearly a century ago, only now it glows under LED lights and delivery apps. Nevada's economy may appear alive, but its people are starving in silence. Inflation devours raises, rent hikes erase stability, and the illusion of success traps millions in survival mode. The middle class, waitresses, technicians, casino dealers, the backbone of the state, are its forgotten victims. They don't stand in bread lines. They stand in grocery aisles, holding their breath as totals flash across the screen. Behind every dazzling Las Vegas light is a family eating less, saving nothing, and losing hope. The Great Depression isn't a history lesson here. It's a shadow creeping back into the neon glow, one empty dinner plate at a time. Number 1, California, the hidden hunger of the Golden State. California was once the American dream. Golden beaches, endless sunshine, Silicon Valley wealth, and the promise that hard work could buy it all. But in 2025, that promise has shattered. Behind the palm trees and luxury Teslas, millions of middle-class Californians live one grocery trip away from financial collapse. The state that feeds half the nation, through its farms and vineyards, now has teachers, nurses, and tech workers who cannot afford their own groceries. It's not an exaggeration. It's a quiet tragedy that smells of despair at checkout lines. In 2019, the average California household spent about $750 per month on food. Today, that number ranges from $1,400 to $1,600, depending on the city. In San Francisco, a gallon of milk costs nearly $7, a dozen eggs $6.50, and chicken that once cost $2.99 per pound now hovers near $7. A typical grocery trip that used to cost $60 now totals over $120, forcing families to leave essential items on the shelf. Meanwhile, the state's median household income of $91,500 barely moves the needle when rent swallows $3,000 a month and taxes erode the rest. California's middle class has become the working poor in disguise. These are not welfare recipients. They are professionals, teachers in Los Angeles, engineers in San Jose, nurses in Sacramento, skipping meals to make rent. Surveys show nearly 40% of middle-income Californians now experience food insecurity, a figure once reserved for the state's poorest residents. In Los Angeles County alone, over 2 million people rely on food banks each month, many with full-time jobs. Even in the world's fifth-largest economy, food has become a luxury. The cruelest irony, California produces much of America's food: strawberries, almonds, avocados, lettuce. Yet the people picking, packing, and programming its logistics cannot afford what they handle. A pound of locally grown grapes costs more in San Jose than in Chicago. A single avocado grown miles away can cost $2.50. Farmers struggle with rising costs while grocery corporations report record profits. The new middle class survives on survival math. Parents skip fresh produce for canned alternatives, ration milk, eat less meat, and rely on cheap processed foods. Healthy eating has become a privilege of the wealthy. One Oakland mother explained, "I used to shop for what we liked. Now I shop for what keeps us alive." Food inflation has risen 26% since 2021, nearly triple income growth. The toll is emotional as well as financial. Anxiety and shame replace security. Californians check prices daily, plan meals around sales, and pray that a car repair doesn't force skipped groceries. Pride is replaced by guilt, freedom by fear. The American dream now means surviving another month without maxing out a credit card. There are no breadlines in 2025. Only overworked parents using buy now, pay later apps, and delivery drivers bringing subsidized food boxes to suburban homes. California was supposed to represent the future, but when the state with the most billionaires cannot feed its middle class, it is not just an economic failure, it is a moral one. The Great Depression never ended. It evolved, swapping soup lines for smartphones, desperation for debt, and dignity for discount codes. The middle class is starving, and nobody wants to admit it. As America faces this growing food crisis, one question remains: how will we come together to rebuild a system that truly feeds everyone? Every voice matters, and awareness is the first step toward change. If this video opened your eyes, show your support by liking, subscribing, and turning on the notification bell so you never miss our next report. Together, we can spark the conversation that leads to real solutions. Stay strong, stay informed, and we'll see you in the next video, right here on Housing Watch, where your awareness makes a difference.